Good morning, party people. It's your boy Voltron with another ANKR video. So yesterday, I attended a Twitter space, and the host was Diogo, and he started talking about ANKR and RPCs, and something started to happen in Twitter space. We started to have technical difficulties, and that's common on Twitter space. There's always issues with the spaces. That's why a lot of people like to have their events on Discord, but then you run into other issues that people don't know how to use Discord. So they go back to Twitter, and then we have to deal with, hey, we can't hear the audio. But it looked like Diogo got cut off, and then we had one of the workers of ANKR take over and start talking about some of the stuff that they are working on behind the scenes. What's interesting is that they were working, it sounds like they're working with Cosmos, with Sui, with Avalanche, and we may be hearing news about what's being brewed with these three entities. What really caught my attention was that, hey, she mentioned Avalanche. And the Avalanche also made the news yesterday because of their partnership with AWS, which is interesting. A lot of people weren't expecting this, and suddenly, we see a spike in the Avalanche, because they're working with AWS, and you may be saying, how could this be good for ANKR? Because ANKR, they provide nodes, so does AWS. They're the king of nodes on Ethereum, and we have to stop for a moment and go, hey, wait a minute. We have seen companies that we think of as competitors working together in the past. Apple and Google, for example, have partnered together. And why is AWS interested in Avalanche? What could be happening? Well, we know that AWS is like a top dog, a top G in the world of Ethereum when it comes to nodes. But there's a problem. They cater to enterprise, big enterprise, on a large scale. So what about their companies that they work with that need to work on a smaller scale? There's a little bit of a problem there. What about government? Government is looking to get into digital currency. We're seeing governments move to their centralized digital currency, and they need to be able to make it work on a small scale. If someone wants to buy something for $1, it needs to work. So AWS has an issue with scalability. So they're looking to Avalanche to say, hey, can you guys help us out with this component? We want to start doing business with the government. We want to start doing business with some of the enterprises we talk to, but they need to work on a smaller scale. And this is where Avalanche fits the picture for AWS. That partnership is working well. And you may be saying, well, how is this going to help ANKR? Well, ANKR has been working with Avalanche, and ANKR's model is not just providing nodes. They can provide nodes to help, control outages. So ANKR still plays a role because they are decentralized, and they can still help providing nodes and make sure that Avalanche still runs smoothly. That second component is ANKR is not just a node provider. They also work in DeFi. Remember, ANKR is a little more diversified when it comes to infrastructure. When we think of infrastructures, we just think nodes, but ANKR also works in the DeFi sector, which means there's going to be more usage of stablecoins, that people may want to start using their stablecoins, and they need access to it. They need DeFi access to it. And now that opportunity is there. And then one thing that we haven't noticed is that when ANKR forms a partnership, they do their partnerships a little different than most companies. Lots of times we see companies that get into a partnership just to benefit them. We don't see companies go into a partnership where it's mutual. At least not mutual in the long term. Lots of times we get this idea that, hey, what's in it for me? Whereas ANKR goes into a partnership and they're like, what's in it for us? So when we do good, you do good. And when Avalanche does well, so does ANKR. What's interesting is, if we look at how Avalanche moves and how ANKR moves, they tend to be very similar. When things are bad for Avalanche, things go bad for ANKR. When things are great for Avalanche, things go great. So this partnership, which is great for Avalanche, could potentially spill over to ANKR. So this is great news, and potentially good news down the road, because AWS has said, hey, we're looking at Web3 and we don't see it disappearing. So we need to start working in Web3. We're working with Avalanche, which indirectly could spill over into ANKR. So good news for everyone. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace out, safe and best.